slow motion, we're just floating in slow so ocean free, we're just floating on so wild.
Hello, everyone. Shannon Miller here with Cleaning Business Life, and I want to talk about Pepsi versus Coke. I was actually at the 4th of July parade here in my town. It was freaking hot, and they were giving out, not only were they spraying the crowds, which was great, the kids had a good time. I got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a while. I got a little can of Pepsi, and I'm like, gosh, it made me think about the Pepsi versus Coke taste test. And I always call it the Pepsi versus Coke Wars battle. And they had coolers. They were just handing it out everywhere because it was just so hot. And some of you are going to know what I'm talking about. Some of you aren't. You can actually Google it and do your own research. But it made me realize that Pepsi versus Coke was one of the biggest marketing campaigns in the United States ever. And it was awesome to think about, like, how cool it was. Advertisement back then was a participation event. I mean, they advertised, you wanted to be part of whatever the advertisement was going on. I was probably 9, 10 years old, maybe 11. And they had these Pepsi versus Coke challenges. So it was always done outside. At least that's what I recollect. You were always at an event. There was a big banner on the background, and you could go up to the table and you would be blindfolded, and the whole crowd would be silent because we were all waiting for the results. And then they had the blindfold on, and then they would taste one, and then they would taste the other. But what I remember the most about the taste is they would go like this. And I was like, in my 9-year-old brain, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be the person who is the taste tester for Pepsi versus Coke. So they had 2 white cups, 1 Pepsi, 1 Coke, and the crowd gathered around watching, and 9 times out of 10, Pepsi won, right? And because I wanted to be one of those people, that was the style of advertising in that time period in the United States. And I wanted to participate not because I wanted Pepsi. I wanted to participate because I wanted to experience what these other people who were blindfolded experienced, right? I wanted to participate. And great advertisement doesn't just make you want to buy. It makes people belong, and it makes people want to participate like I did. And I was just like, I thought that was going to be like the coolest thing. I was going to be famous. And just because I was able to identify Pepsi versus Coke. But you have to remember, I was like 9, right? Let me give you a little bit of history about Coca-Cola. It was founded in 1886 by Dr. John Pemberton in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was actually a pharmacy drink, and it was 5 cents a glass. And they put cocaine in the Coke because it was medicinal. And I remember the advertisement was makes you feel great. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it made you feel great. And then Pepsi, I don't know if it had the same medicinal properties. You'll have to look that up. It was founded in 1898 by Caleb Bradham, originally called Brad's Drink, and it was also another pharmacy fridge. Neither company knew that they were building global brands at the time. So they just created a drink. They thought it would be really cool. They were helping the crowds out and making people feel better, right? Pepsi almost went out of business, and they filed bankruptcy twice. Coca-Cola had the opportunity to buy Pepsi. Can you imagine how scandalous that would have been? But they passed. Imagine the history if Coke had bought Pepsi. That would have changed the evolution of soda pop or pop, depending on what part of the country you live in, forever, right? And you have to remember, in my 9-year-old brain, I actually didn't drink Coke or Pepsi. We got like orange soda, or I got Mountain Dew. My dad on the weekends, because my mom and dad were separated, he would feed me Fritos, bean dip, and Mountain Dew. But in my 9-year-old brain, I wanted to participate in the Pepsi Coke challenge. In the Great Depression, Coke was 6.5 ounces, and it was still a nickel. Pepsi one up them, and it was 12 ounces for the same price. Twice the product, same price, huge competitive advantage. And they both, I believe, were still medicinal in the Great Depression. I think they stopped making medicinal Coca-Cola Coca-Cola, Pepsi beverages. After the Depression, I'd actually have to check my dates on that. Sometimes value wins, right? And then television changed so many things for so many people, books, television shows, and products. In the 1950s to the 1970s, advertisement became entertainment. It wasn't this constant barrage of what we get all the time. I mean, sometimes I think we're overstimulated by the amount of advertisement we get on a daily basis everywhere. I mean, you get it in your text messages, you get it on the internet if you watch internet TV, you get it on cable TV if you have cable TV, you get telemarketing calls on your phone, you get it in your email from people that you never signed up from. You see it on backs of cars, you see it on vans, you see it on t-shirts, you see it. There's advertisement everywhere. But the 50s to the 70s, there was a protocol that had to be followed. There wasn't just arbitrarily advertisement. It was actually meant to be entertaining. And commercials actually became part of the American culture, like Levi jeans, right? So then the Pepsi Challenge started in 1975. And it happened in shopping malls when malls were still around. I don't think there's any malls around anymore. We still have one here, but no one goes to it. Country fairs, public events, blind taste test. Let's see if I can flip the page over. Sorry, I'm not that organized today. And it was a national sensation. So I wonder who the brainchild was of this marketing campaign, but I still to this day think it was absolutely fantastic. And the question, I guess, we could ask is why did Pepsi keep winning? And there's a couple of scientific methods that they came up. Pepsi kept winning because it was sweeter on the initial taste going down. So they were able to differentiate the Pepsi versus Coke because Coke actually wasn't sweeter when you initially tasted it. It was not as sweet the longer that you drank it, so it was more palatable. And it was a better sip test is what they called it. Food scientists called this the sip preference. One sip, Pepsi often wins. An entire can, Pepsi, many people, if they drank a whole can of Pepsi, many people actually preferred the Coke. And people would never confuse. The branding is so iconic that you would never confuse the two brands, Pepsi versus Coke. As a matter of fact, if you go to the movie theaters today, at least the movie theaters where I live, it's Coke. It's Coke products. We see the Coke commercial, friendly. Everybody's friendly drinking Coke. And first impressions with long-term relationships. So I grew up with Pepsi and Coke. And why Coke stayed number one is because people weren't buying sugar water. They were buying memories. They were buying from habits. They were buying from family traditions, just like with See's Candy. They're buying with trust, identity, and brand loyalty. And I can tell you that we have a See's Candy here in my town. It's actually the busiest See's Candy in northern Arizona. And I remember my grandmother taking me to the candy counters and See's Candy, and that was like the treat. So around 1985, as I mentioned, the taste test prompted Coke to want to monopolize the market. So they came out with New Coke. I don't know how many of you guys remember New Coke versus regular Coke, but New Coke was actually sweeter, just like Pepsi. They thought that they would just take that slice of the market for themselves, and it ended up bombing. And it was so awful that they shelved it. I don't remember how many years. There was quite a few years it was on the market. And how they did the research is Coke did 190,000 taste tests to make sure it was going to be a good product, right? They did some research. They did focus groups. They had scientific methods, the sip test. And consumers rejected it. Not necessarily because it tasted bad, but because it replaced something that they love. They already love the Coke product. If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So there was data that was measured and, it didn't provide the same emotion, identity, tradition, and memories as the original Coke. And people actually, I remember, and you can still see them if you go to certain antique stores, they stopped the original Coke because they were going to replace the original Coke with the new Coke. You can still find unopened bottles from 1985 almost in every antique store. So Pepsi won the sip taste test, but Coke won the relationship overall. Pepsi sold youth, competition, music, celebrities, excitement, and participation. That was me. And Coke sold family, Christmas, America, traditions, memories, and nostalgia. Same product, different identity. And then there was the celebrity era. There were celebrities that went around drinking the product. And that was actually awesome. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Michael Jackson commercials with him sipping Coke. Or Madonna did her own little stunt where I believe she also supported Coke. I could be wrong. Britney Spears did it. Ray Charles did it. And the Cola Wars actually became pop culture. And I actually went to a conference, a cleaning conference, and I was like, well, what could I do to see in between? Because it's not just all about conferences and relationships. I like to get out and see what's going on. I actually visited the Coca-Cola factory where they have, I think, like 200 or more different tastes of Coca-Cola. There was like black pepper, Tabasco. There was a Dr. Pepper one, all kinds of weird. And there's like these little white cups and you just stick it in there and shoot it back, right? What caught my memory about the whole experience was the fact that the floor, because of how much Coke product is being distributed on a daily basis. I don't know what the total value of how many people visit the museum every day or the factory floor, but the taste test floor, I should say. But it was sticky. You could like walk across it and it would just stick. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know me. Oh my gosh, we're trying. No, I couldn't imagine that they probably couldn't keep up with the volume of Coca-Cola product that was coming out. So they probably cleaned it up as best they could and then repeat, rinse and repeat. So there was actually some really cool pieces of nostalgia of Coca-Cola in the museum, in the showroom. There was vintage bottles. There was a gift shop. And like I said, the international tasting area was actually pretty cool. Some of the flavors I was like, I'm not going to try it. Like blueberry Coca-Cola. I'm like, any blue food. So there were a lot of flavors and there were a lot of different countries represented, but that floor was just over the top. And I think professions change their own perception. So mechanics notice engines, chefs notice kitchens, electricians notice wiring, and cleaners notice floors, right? So it's just a habit. It's just like when you go to a public bathroom, you see everything. And the gift shop was pretty cool because every museum has a gift shop where you can buy souvenirs. And the branding continued. There was Coke hats, there was Coke shirts, there was Coke gloves, there was Coke keychains, purses, you name it. They had a little bit of everything. And so the branding was continuous, and I still remember it all this time later. So you have to think about what happens when you're done cleaning. Are you following up with your clients? Are you asking for a review? Do you have your little scanny card if you're out solo, or do you have a way that, is hooked up to a funnel so that it, reminds the customer to please leave a review? Are you staying connected? Are you doing an email campaign? Are you trying to continue the relationship? Now, I know during the summer you have, your regular maintenance clients, and it's really hard to continue the relationship with move out cleanings. And I've had people reach out to me like, why are you still emailing me? I'm like, you never know when you're going to move back to the area. You can always unsubscribe. It's totally okay. Or if they're really upset, I'll just take them off the list. It's no big deal. But getting that small can of Pepsi makes me wonder how many more memories will come up with all of these other commercials. What commercials do you guys still remember? I mean, I bet you if I sat down and thought about it and wrote them out, there would be like dozens. I mean, everyone remembers the Budweiser Clydesdale, right? And here are some right off the top of my head. There's Where's the Beef? Those are great. She'd just go around and go, where's the beef? Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Then that was actually like a burger war. And then there was Calgon taking me away. You know, I'll pitch to the mommies in the group, right? Calgon, take me away. Herbal Essence was the girl who had the obscene shower noises, but it smelled like chamomile. Oscar Mayer Wiener, OSCAR, I'm not singing it. Got to get that beat, right? Toys R Us had a great commercial, and they didn't really sell the products, they sold the brand. So you could have went to Toys R Us anywhere, and I know Toys R Us got absolved, I believe, by Macy's. You can still do the Toys R Us thing inside of a Macy's department store, from what I remember. They sold feelings. So when you're selling your cleaning, you're selling the end result. What is that feeling? Does it smell fresh? What does your smell fresh include? Is it Fabuloso? Is it pure evergreen? Is it above all naturals? Is it 5-in-1? What is it? BioClean? What is your end result to make people remember the memory of having something good happen to their home? So a lot of branding sells feelings, and that's why there's such a dedicated, hardcore Coca-Cola crowd. So before social media, there were 3 TV stations. There was ABC, NBC, and I can't remember what the third one is. I'm having a brain fart, but you guys can tell me. There's no Facebook, Instagram, no TikTok. Information was just not as accessible as it is now. There was no YouTube, no streaming. We didn't even have cable television yet. There was just public television. And the television time, I believe, at 11 o'clock, or sometimes it was midnight, or if we were watching old episodes of Saturday Night Live, you had to be able to stay, because New York was 3 hours ahead. So you had to stay up really late. I was always on the West Coast. So cleaning companies don't sell vacuuming, dusting, bathrooms. They sell trust, reliability, confidence, peace, time, freedom, walking into a clean home, smelling a clean home, feeling the energy that everything is put in its place, and it's one less thing off this person's shoulders. And it's less stress, right? So 2 cleaning companies, same price, same surface. What are you doing to differentiate yourself from the different experiences that you guys are providing? Company A doesn't answer the phone. They show up in dirty uniforms. They show up late. Within reason, I think just about everybody gives a window of when they're going to arrive. Gives a one-line estimate. There's no follow-up. Where company B is friendly greeting, quick response, professional estimate, reminder text on time for the most part within the window. Uniformed walkthrough, thank you message, and a follow-up again. Same price, different feeling. I think the biggest mistakes that most cleaning companies make is they try to compete on price, so you're kind of racing yourself to the bottom. But they're also looking like every other cleaning company, right? Oh, it's just toilets. And how many times have people discounted us? Oh, it's just cleaning. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a broom sweep. What's the problem? Why aren't you done already, right? Same logo, same wording, same Facebook posts, same guarantees, same pricing. Well, my pricing is a little higher, but that's okay. Coke never became Pepsi, thank God. And Pepsi never became Coke, so that was a good thing. Now they have other global brands that are tied into the name. And they're 2 different identities. Both are very successful. Competition made both companies better. Think about that. The competition between Coke and Pepsi versus Coke, made both companies better. It made me as a kid want to be involved in that taste test. And great marketing doesn't buy people. It makes people care. People don't buy cleaning. They buy confidence. Products satisfy needs. Brands satisfy identity. Marketing isn't manipulation. It's memory. What that end result is. Your estimate is the sip test. Next time you do one, you'll think of me. Your service is on the whole can. One of my favorite observations when I went to the museum And I don't remember every drink I tried. There were some good ones and there were some really bad ones. It was like, they didn't have like a water chaser to help wash it down. I was like, oh, you could tell where people were trying to mingle and intermix. It was amazing to be part of a piece of American history. And it was really cool to see. So as a kid, I thought Pepsi and Coke were competing over taste because I was 9. As an adult business owner, I realized they were competing over something much, much bigger, a place in your mind. Because once you own a place in someone's mind, because they remember you're selling memories, price becomes a lot less important. So Pepsi won the taste test, Coke won generations, and they eventually subsequently stopped the taste test, the battle over Pepsi versus Coke. And your cleaning business doesn't have to win every estimate. It needs to become the company people think of first. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with another cleaning business owner. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. It tells the algorithm that, hey, we are worthy. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time and spending your afternoon with me and listening to me talk about Pepsi versus Coke. I hope that you guys have a great day. Take care.